Welcome everyone to this Click Create Artist Spotlight. Today we have Willard. What words describe your artistic style?
I think my artistic style could be described as somewhat minimal. A lot of people have compared my work to folk art. I think this comparison comes perhaps from my interest in ordinary landscapes. I've always thought about the picture plane as this kind of magical surface. So you could put a few shapes on a canvas, let's say a few circles, and the viewer might imagine that they're looking down at a table. But if you take the same canvas and you draw a horizontal line across it, it becomes a landscape all of a sudden. The entire perceptual orientation is shifted. Most of my work, not all of it, but most of it, takes the form of landscape through this integration of a horizon line. But I'm always trying to counteract the realism of the scene by flattening the depth in some ways, which is a way for me of reminding the viewer that they are looking at a flat 2D surface composed, in my case, of pixels, rather than the actual kind of real scene that's being displayed. And so I think my interest in the picture plane, the kind of surface, the two-dimensional surface of the canvas, is always in my mind, and it's always something that is kind of shaping the character aesthetically of my work.
What inspires you to create?
I don't think inspiration is a necessary condition for art making. More of a proponent that, you as an artist, you have to show up in the studio every day, as opposed to waiting on inspiration to strike. So I don't necessarily look to spectacular experiences or clever concepts. I'm more interested in the ordinary, perhaps the poetics of ordinary things, ordinary places. But for me, it's not about, waiting on inspiration. It's about showing up and kind of being in a practice habitually of making art.
What are you most proud of in your career as a digital artist?
I think one of the most important moments for me as a digital artist was the release of my cul-de-sac series. This was an open edition that started with one piece, but then had a burn mechanic that led to a series of 5 additional pieces which were released over a few months. The original open edition minted somewhere like 2,500 pieces, which meant that there was a large collector base following along this story. And because it was spaced out over several weeks, it really could unfold as a narrative. The first one was depicting a fairly ordinary cul-de-sac street with a series of houses, but the longer you look at it, the more eerie or uncanny it became. The fact that there were no cars or people in the scene, that all the mailboxes had the flag up as if they had outgoing mail. And as the series unfolded, the next piece zoomed out and you see the construction of a more suburban development, and zooms out further and you see that this suburban development is encroaching upon this kind of farmhouse property with a barn. And so this kind of narrative, although it's never written or explicitly said through text, it unfolds through the imagery. And because there were all of these collectors following along, waiting to use the original open edition as a burn mechanic to get the next piece and the next piece and the next one, they were, offering their commentary or kind of looking for clues and talking about where the narrative might be going. And that kind of collective experience really isn't something that happens at all in the traditional art world. So I think that cul-de-sac series was certainly something I'm very proud of in my body of work.
What were your goals for this Click Create edition?
The Click Create edition, it's a continuation in many ways of my observation and fascination with ordinary landscapes. The piece itself depicts a road sign, and in the background you see these windmills and then the road that is in fact curving according to the sign. But the longer you sit with the image, the longer you look at it, the stranger I think it becomes. Where it seems on its face quite simple, but the more you study it, the odder and more surreal the kind of situation is. I'm excited to introduce my work and the world I've been building to a whole new group of collectors. With this piece, I'm hoping to show more people what I've been up to and what my kind of obsessions and fascinations, both with representation of landscape as well as the kind of construction of compositional relationships on a two-dimensional surface of a picture plane.